Lord, open our hearts so that we might be fertile ground to receive your good news. Amen. Please be seated. Well, good morning. It's great to be with you today. Today we're going to spend some time with the parable we find in today's gospel, hence this amazing board that you might not be able to see over here that I created. It says God, wealth, and you. And so when I was here in Easter, we did some discussion type sermons where we went back and forth. So I'm going to invite your participation again today. How's that sound? I thought I'd dive right into it. So who here likes parables? Got 1, 2, 3, a couple of blank stares, a couple of maybes. So you can find yourself in a lot of places when it comes to parables. You can, be all over the map. Oh, this makes sense. Usually not. Or this doesn't quite make any sense, or I'm confused. Wherever it is fine. I thought today what we do is sort of take some steps into understanding how to approach parables and look at today's parables with those eyes. Hopefully with these new eyes. Because Jesus did all of his teaching in these big crowds with parables. So people came to expect them, and I think people also learned how to approach the parables in a slightly different way. One of the sort of the instructional parables not read today is the parable of the sower. And the parable of the sower gives us a little bit of foundation on this journey so that we can better understand parables. And you might remember the parable of the sower is a parable where the sower is walking through and throwing seed. Some of that seed falls onto stone, some of it on rock, some of it on thorns, and some of it on fertile soil. And Jesus actually explains this one, which is kind of nice. And Jesus talks about, the sower representing God and the seed representing the good news. And so those that fall on the stone or trampled on or might be, hard of heart, those that are in the thorns or wrestling with wealth, which might come into play here today, those seeds that fall on good soil, we who are gathered here today, have this opportunity to turn that good news into fruit, into abundant fruit and understanding that we might have. And so we have that gift from Jesus in how we might understand, but it's really important that we come to a parable with an open heart. With an open heart and an open mind, this state of openness. Because parables kind of short-circuit us. You get there, and we're going to talk about it in a second, because we're going to run into some short-circuiting that you might be experiencing, and I'm going to try to help re-jumpstart you as we talk about it. And how, as we sort of journey through this parable, I am going to give you a little bit of an opportunity to, we'll talk a little bit more about that powerful phrase, you cannot serve God and wealth, and so we're going to explore that piece. And then I'm going to share a little bit of maybe what I saw in my journey at the very end and conclude by, talking about some crazy thing I thought when I was exploring this week. So be prepared. No. But I want you to feel free to again, see how this parable is speaking to you, because I think they speak to us in unique ways, each and every one of us. So the parable today is the unjust steward. And immediately this conversation of wealth comes up, money. And it's not only just money, it's a manager who's dealing with his own livelihood and his own money and wealth, and also managing somebody else's. So does talking about money leave you a little paralyzed? Already you're like, okay, wait a second, he's preaching. There's a few things he shouldn't talk about. Politics, money, we'll leave the other one out. But we're going to talk about it, and we're going to explore it a little bit. So don't be stuck. Open your mind. Be that space of fertile ground. There are a couple other little phrases that I want to talk about before we jump into talking about this amazing little board here. And a couple things that can throw you off in the parable right from the start is, make friends for yourselves by means of dishonest wealth, so that when it is gone, they may welcome you into their eternal homes. Were you thrown off by that one? You can get stuck on that one right away. And we're not going to dwell on that a whole bunch, but I think what that is talking to us about is the world we live in, the financial system, maybe in this country, for example, capitalism, that is not equitable for all people. And we know that. And so we have a broken system. Financial systems are not perfect. And today's parable points to this manager being generous with those under his purview, under his management. And I think we're invited to do the same. Wherever we fall, being generous within this financial system is a real important thing. But Jesus takes it a step further. This manager is doing it for personal interest. And again, Jesus wants us to be operating out of a place of love. And so this second line within the parable that kind of can catch our attention, whoever is faithful in very little is faithful also in much. And whoever is dishonest in very little is dishonest also in much. Jesus is calling us to look down at the source, like the manager who is being a little bit, he's trying to preserve himself. He's trying to survive. We understand that. But at the same point, Jesus is calling us in the parable to look at our thoughts, because it's our thoughts that become our actions, right? And so as we continue to journey into this parable, I want you to try your best as we look at this phrase, you cannot serve God and wealth, where that touches you, especially in these questions. And again, this will hit you in different places. You all have different experiences. So I've taken that you cannot serve God and wealth and put it into a couple of questions, and here they are. How does wealth get in the way of your relationship with God? And what happens when you serve wealth? And what happens when you serve God? So I got you thinking now? So I can hand the sermon over to you guys. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to invite you to share. Is there anybody out there that feels brave enough to share a thought that they might have? The 8 o'clock did an amazing job, I just want to tell you. Kathy was there. I was scared at the 8 o'clock. Everyone's still asleep here. But it's a parable. It's hard. We got to let go. We got to let go. We got to be in that space of having an open mind, of just exploring, just having that freedom. Any thoughts? Yes. Being generous, yes. Yeah. Yeah. The person that's being generous. Yeah. Yeah. That's ultimately, is the source of that. Yeah. What else? What else? What gets in our way of being in a relationship with God? What about wealth gets in the way? See, this is a tough one. This is good. Thoughts? Yes. It's difficult to serve God without wealth? Say that again. Yeah. Yeah. Right. So without the wealth, it's harder to serve. Yeah. That could be one concern. Not having the wealth to serve God. and feeling like that's how you serve God. And that's again your experience and what you see. What else? Yes.
This is probably a little bit off the subject, but it reminds me of another parable where the master says, I'm going to remember this very badly.
No, go ahead.
But he says, pay me what you owe me to the steward.
Yeah.
And the steward turns around, the master forgives the debt of the steward.
Yeah.
And the steward turns around and says to his underling, pay up.
Yeah.
And the master says, you know what?
Yeah.
That's probably not a good idea.
Right.
So, go to hell.
Yeah.
So how does that parable fit into this parable about wealth?
Right. So that's the wonderful thing about parables is they're going to pick every single angle to come at. Right? So you're going to run into places where, like you're saying, in that case, the Lord or the master is coming down on the manager for not being generous. And in this case, the manager is being a little bit, kind of sneaky, trying to, take care of things. So the nature of the parable is not necessarily to take sides, right? Besides with God, besides with the love of God, but with your own experience. Because, we fall into a variety of financial places here. We fall into a variety of places where we might have a lot of money. We might not have a lot of money. We might find ourselves somewhere in between. But what is the right thing to do? In both of those parables that you said, there is sort of a message of generosity, a generosity of God's abundance.
Did you say the focus on wealth is distracting?
Money being distracting? Yeah, money can distract us from that. And, again, how you look at it. I mean, as somebody that doesn't have a lot of money, seeing them not being able to contribute their wealth to something is one viewpoint. At the same point, somebody might not have a lot, but they might volunteer their time. They might be able to do that. And that's equally, as generous in God's eyes. And again, that calls us to our own particular challenge that the parable draws us to. Looking at what comes to mind and then digging deeper into what the parable is trying to lead us to. Is it to giving more money, which I'd like to, talk about for a little bit. Stewardship's coming up, and no, I'm just kidding. But it is part of it. Is God calling you to give more? Are you being stingy? Or is there time? Is there an opportunity to volunteer? Maybe that's something. Or maybe there isn't something to do. And that's a little bit, that's sort of an important piece of what I really want to get at, is no matter where we fall, that little voice inside of us can be really critical. You know what I'm talking about? You're not doing good enough. You're not giving enough. You might give thousands and thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, and you don't feel fulfilled by that. You don't know where that is. And God's calling us to look at that point within our heart, that place where we're thinking about this, where we're wrestling about it, and give us some freedom from that. The person that doesn't have a lot of money that says, I don't have any money to give. I'm not good enough. And Jesus wants to enter those places and free that person, saying, no, you're trying your hardest. You're wrestling with what you have. Let's focus on you for a little while, Let's let go of that feeling, that societal pressure to feel like you got to give, and just bring it in to this place that's centered on God. Yes. I can't hear you. How do you support the church without money?
Are we not driven by money? Does money run everything?
Yeah.
The market's down dramatically. We spend a lot of time worrying about how money we're losing.
Yeah.
Or do we spend time caring about people?
Right.
So we're constantly back
Right. Yes.
from church, from
Yeah.
it's a difficult balance.
It is. That's the struggle. That's in a nutshell. That's the struggle. We're constantly in that struggle. Both the people in Christ's time were struggling with this conversation. We struggle with it today. How much is enough? And when we're in that conversation about wealth, we often enter into that place of fear. When we put our trust in wealth and monies, we're in this place of fear. It can be lost. Yes, Kelly.
One of the things I like about parables often
Yeah.
is in the way we approach stories.
Yeah.
So this lays out certain premises
Yeah.
that we just accept.
Yeah.
One of them is that there is a master that can command from people 100 barrels of whatever, and
Yeah.
like way more than any one person would need, and we just take it as a given of the story that like, of course this guy and he is owed them.
Yeah.
But the parable opens up for us the opportunity of questioning, why is that a given?
Yeah.
Why would one guy command that much?
Yeah.
Like, why would it be just that that one guy would get so much stuff?
Has so much. Yeah. No, thank you. Yeah. Any other thoughts? This is part of it. Yes. Jenny.
Yes, I think the piece of you can't serve God and serve wealth I can always hear like something like, well, that's something you need to think about because there's something there.
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe part of the all kind of wrestle with something. Can you hear me? Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. But I think for me, what the question that brings up is, okay, so if I'm thinking about material things, like wanting a new car or whatever, a thing, then I'm shifting my attention away from God, the source of all happiness and all
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah.
And whatever's taking my attention away from God, I think that's where I'm missing the mark.
Is sort of giving God thanks for all that we have.
Well, yes, that.
Yeah.
And if I'm like, all I'm thinking about is a thing to make me happy, I'll be happy when.
Yeah, when you have something. Yes.
And that's, I think that's in the mark, and that's God saying to me, like, hey, you should think about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Why are you suffering because you can't have that car or that thing? Is that what you're saying?
Or why
Yeah.
am I not happy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, and also I think the thing about giving,
Yeah.
giving of my money, of my time, I think it's all an invitation to be in relationship with God, whether I'm wrestling with how much
Yeah.
to give, or whether I'm wrestling with, okay, shift my attention from wanting things to wanting God to be my eternal reward and my eternal happiness.
Yeah. Thank you. One other thought? No.
Bring a little Buddhist thought
Uh-huh.
into this holy place.
Yeah.
We are told that it is not the thing, the person, the lifestyle, the money, the new car, whatever. Not having that is not evil or wicked in itself.
Yeah.
It is our attachment to those things
Yeah.
that gets in the way of our greater.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I've been poor.
Yeah.
I am not so poor now.
Yeah.
And I agree with the gentleman back there.
Yeah.
Having a little bit of money makes me a little bit happier. I'd much rather have money than not have it.
Yeah.
It allows me to be generous.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your sharing. This I love it. I love how it just sort of builds. The thinking just sort of grows. You just see the seeds kind of plant and the thinking begins. And that's exactly why we're here, is to enter into this parable with an open mind and to let those seeds kind of grow into something. When I was I just want to conclude with this short little story that happened when I was preparing for today's sermon, I did this little board for my family and at the dinner table. Maggie helped out. And as we were doing it, we shared different ideas, kind of like what we just did, and they kind of kindled up. And what hit me was this image of, wormholes. Are you all familiar with wormholes? Are there any physicists here? Because I'm not a physicist. But I play one on TV. No, I get all my info from movies. And so when I saw this board, what came to mind actually were all these explanations in the movies about wormholes. I don't know why. This is the magic of parables. But it just came to my mind. And oftentimes there's a movie called Event Horizon. There's a great movie called Interstellar, Matt McConaughey, that talks about wormholes. I think all the new Thor movies talk about wormholes in some way or another. And they talk about traveling through time, through great distances in order to get there, taking a wormhole so that it goes much faster. And what they always do is they explain it by taking a piece of paper and they say, how do you get from point A to point B the fastest? And people always say, well, a straight line. Well, that would take too long. So in these movies, they always talk about bending time and having either a machine or some sort of godlike, intercession that comes in and is able to bend time. And so as I was doing this with my family, that idea of what that might look like came into mind in relationship to this little sticky pad. And I saw God, and I saw you, and I said, oh my gosh, look how easy it is to just bend time and to see how closely related and connected we actually are to God if we just look for those little wormholes. Those magical little wormholes. And they always take a pen or something and they poke it through too. So I'm not able to do that. Oh, I did get one. Here we are. I can be official. Right through the wormhole. The amazing thing about that, I saw that and I was like, oh, we are so connected to God. God is the source of this growth that we have. God is just supporting us. And when I did a little bit more research into parables, I realized I had forgotten that the Greek word for parable actually means to come alongside. Exactly what's going on with this wormhole. God coming alongside you through all these challenges we have in our life, not only with wealth. Wealth is a big piece of that. But in our relationships, in our work, in our play, whatever that might be, God is there and God is with us. So I want you to keep in mind that we are one with God, inseparable from God's love. And it's in this knowing and this knowledge that we keep that open mind. We are that fertile ground. And as you continue to explore the parables and open your mind, I want to invite you to take this open mind out into the world so that you may explore others and you may explore yourself, and that what you might find is surprising and new. Amen.